This is the Lou Grova Trophy. Grova. This is the Lou Groza Trophy, signifying college football's most valuable place kicker. And there he is from 2005, Alexis Serna. And now in 2019, here's Alexis Serna. And first of all, Alexis, you haven't changed a bit.
I hear that often, but there's a bald spot on top, I promise.
Well, we want to talk about the 2007 game against Cal in Berkeley. What pops into your mind first when you think about that game?
LSU losing at halftime and us knowing that going into that. They were number 2 at that time in the nation. And coming out in the second half, we knew that they were essentially the number 1 team in the nation at that moment. And that was kind of a motivation for us to go out there and win.
You guys were 3-3. I think you were 2 touchdown underdogs. At halftime, the crowd started chanting, "We're number 1, we're number 1." Was that an incentive too?
Actually, I didn't even realize that they were cheering that. I just remember one of the funniest plays right before that halftime. They tried to squib the ball and went right to Isaiah Cook, and he snagged the ball. And then we started driving down, and I ended up getting a 52-yarder. The other funny thing was that Sean Canfield went way past the line of scrimmage. It got away with one, but we ended up getting some points right before that. But we always performed pretty well out there, so that was pretty exciting.
So that was 14-13 Bears at halftime. In the second half, you guys pulled off on defense one of the most amazing goal line stands maybe in Beaver history, with Justin Forsett trying to get in from the 1 4 times.
Yeah, no, the defense was that year we were number 1 rush defense in the nation, and every single player on that team, they stepped up. It was a lot of fun to be able to watch that and see them hold that out. I don't know if I punted out of the back of the end zone a little bit later after that, but actually I did punt out going out of I do remember that. But yeah, it was good to get them a little bit away from that, but my punting wasn't as great as I wish it was.
That's why you were a field goal kicker most of all.
Yes, yeah, that was just stepping up. But that was a very fun year. That was probably one of my most memorable punting games, because I was punting against Deshaun Jackson. And he was an amazing returner and still playing in this league to this day. And I remember one of the punts going into that, he was actually watching which way I was punting, because we were a directional team. And so I set up to the left, and so I see him move over. So I was like, okay, let me set up to the right. And then I see him move back that way, and I was like, oh my gosh, he's following me. So I moved back to the left, squatted down low enough, and then kind of shifted back to the right. So he went over like I was punting to the left, got the ball and put it all the way to the right, and he went running across the whole field, wasn't able to grab that one. Our punt coverage did an awesome job of going down there and covering, but we made sure to keep it away from him.
So it was 31-28. They had one last gasp chance, and their young quarterback, Kevin Riley, who was making his first start, just kind of got confused about the clock, and it ran out, and you guys went away from Memorial Stadium with a huge upset.
Yeah, that was interesting. It was one of those situations in that play. It was like, okay, there's 2 things that they couldn't do. It was take a sack or run the ball. And he ended up scrambling and running and sliding down, and I remember watching the clock. I was like, oh, is this going to happen? And like looking up at the scoreboard and like watching the clock tick, and we're just kind of doing this, and it hit 0, and we all took off over to that corner where all our fans were at and just started celebrating. That was a huge win.
And Mike Riley in the locker room, did he say anything in particular?
We always win at Cal. So I remember we did that our sophomore year. He had said that, and that was I think that was one of the first times he had ever done that. And then he did it again our senior year for that one. So it was awesome to hear him say that.
And it turns out it's one of the top 10 most devastating Bear losses in the Jeff Terford era.
Yes, they went on and didn't win a game after that. They ended up 6-6 on the season, and that was kind of the spark that kind of started it all.
And you guys were you guys had a great year. I think that was the Emerald Bowl.
Yeah, we ended up going 9-4 that season. I remember going into that, even Maryland. Maryland was talking about how they were going to run the ball all over us, and how Boston College had the number 1 rush defense at the time when they played against them, and then they ended up getting like 200 yards. And us being a Coach Riley team, very humble, we didn't say much. We're like, okay, cool. Like, we'll just play the game. And I think they only got like 60, 70 yards in that game. And James Rogers running that fly sweep like 4 or 5 times there at the last of the 4th quarter. But, yeah, that was a very fun team to play with.
Alexis, appreciate you